Hey, so welcome to another episode of the Soulful Side of Life with me, Ali Portee. I hope that you're well and having a good week. And today's podcast interview episode is with Cynthia Dillon. And I've known Cynthia for 10 years now. I met her when I was living in Washington, D.C., and she was also living there. And she's got a fantastic life journey. She grew up in the US in Buenos Aires and Tokyo, and she has this international view on life. She has a background in jewelry, and that's what she does full time today. She has her own Dillon Design, is the name of the jewelry company based in Palm Beach, Florida. And Cynthia got her start by working under Elsa Peretti. She was a renowned jewelry maker for Tiffany Co. And Cynthia was able to work under Elsa and learn quite a lot and was given a lot of responsibility in the early 80s, which propelled her a few years later to launch her own jewelry business when she was living in Madrid, Spain. And she had great successes there. She worked with large companies that included Coca-Cola and the French car company Peugeot. But now, after having had her own jewelry business before, and then she works for an organization that was political. She now lives in sunny Florida, and she has taken up jewelry again, and she designed some fantastic pieces. So enjoy this podcast episode with Cynthia, where she talks about her international experiences. She talks about what inspired her to start her own company, working under Elsa, and what she's doing now, in addition to the work that she has with her own business in Palm Beach. So enjoy. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be on your show today. I'm really excited about your wonderful podcast, magazine, everything. I keep up with your travels and your wonderful life through Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, thank you so much. And I keep up with your jewelry brand and the work that you're doing. I want, before jumping into what you do as a craftsman with your brand, can you talk a little bit about your background and, what were you doing before you launched your own jewelry brand?
Oh, God. Well, let's put it this way. Started in, do you want the short version or the long version?
Whichever version you want to give.
Okay. Well, I worked with Elsa Peretti. She died 4 years ago, I believe, but she was the #1 designer for Tiffany Company for a long, long time. And I was fortunate to have been introduced to her through a friend, and I worked with her for about 9 years. And so at the time, people have, they think of Tiffany and Company today, which is a huge conglomerate. When I worked with Elsa, they only had 13 stores throughout the United States. So it was a small company. It was a big company, but in comparison to in today's world, it was of course, much smaller. And so it was a great, great experience because I was her right-hand person. We traveled together. I oversaw the production of her jewelry. I found a lot of the craftsmen and artisans in Italy and Spain. And so I worked with a couple of catalogs with great photographer Hero. And so I was exposed to the design world, jewelry design from the inside. And when we parted ways in 1989, I went out on my own and went to Spain, to Madrid, and I ended up living in Madrid on and off, going back and forth to New York for about 16 years.
Wow.
So, and there I had a shop and a manufacturing shop. And so I started doing my own pieces, and I learned the hard way by hurting myself, and I worked about 8 hours, 10 hours a day, including weekends. But I enjoyed it. I love working on the wax, making the model, and it was very rewarding. And then I moved to, after 16 years, when I turned 50, I my sister was living in Europe at the time, in Poland, and said, well, put everything in storage and come to Warsaw. And this was about 2006, 2005, late 2005. And Warsaw, it was the worst winter since 1940 or something like that. And
Wow.
so it would, I arrived in November and left in March, but I had a wonderful time. We visited Krakow, Gdansk, the north, and Zakopane, where the Pope used to ski, and did a lot of traveling there. And then I moved back to New York because my parents were getting older and I wanted to be back in the States. And one thing led to another, and I ended up in Washington, and I put away my molds, my samples, everything. And I worked in Washington, D.C. for 7 years.
And you were doing politics, right? Or you were in the political?
Yes. Well, it was a political organization, but we could only talk about policy, not, but it was a lot of fun. And I also had a little radio show for 9 years, and I loved it, but it's a lot of work. You have to do a lot of research when you're interviewing someone,
Yeah.
and study. So it was another job. It was enormous, the work. And that was it. Then moved back to New York my father was getting older. My mother had died, and I was the only available sibling. And so I lived with him the last year of his life. And then after two nor'easters I moved back to Washington. And then after two nor'easters, well, three in New York, 2014 and 15, I believe, and 2016 in Washington, D.C., I said, that's it. That's it. I've had it.
Yeah.
So I moved to Florida, and I've been here now 8 years. I
Wow.
love it. You can't get depressed here with yeah.
Were you in DC in 2010 when it was the big like snowmageddon, snowpocalypse?
I was
It-
in 2001, even when they had the earthquake. Do you remember? I think it was 2008 or 2009 or 10,
okay.
maybe. I was there
forgot
until
about that.
2013. Yeah, they
Okay.
had an earthquake. We all came out. Our office was on 13th Street and Pennsylvania, right? And we came out of the office with, I thought, oh my God. I remember that.
I totally missed that one. I'll never forget that snowmageddon. That was something, being out of classes for like a week and a half.
That's right. You went to
GW,
George.
George Washington. Yeah. So that was something. But wow, so you had this jewelry experience
For a long
going,
time.
going back to the 80s. Where did that stem from?
Well, okay. I always knew I had an eye for, I always knew but I didn't have the urge or anything, but because we lived in Japan when I was growing up. So my mother used to take us to every single temple, every single garden. And so we were, I grew up in Argentina in South America. So, it's all of that, the combination of all these different cultures and when you're a child, your parents make you, no, you have to look at this, look at that, this is, appreciate this. No, you have to do this, you have to do that. So, I guess it stays with you. And then when I traveled and being in design and meeting different people that were very, at the time, were very important in the field of design, it's like it brings you in. And I think it was 1981, right? I was with Elsa. She was coming out with the perfume bottle, Rock Crystal, and it was a big deal. And I accompanied her. We were in Hong Kong, and no one could finish the bottle. It was because it was hand carved in rock crystal. I have one right here with my name. Hold on.
Wow. That sounds in rock crystal. Wow.
I don't know if you can see it.
A little bit. Yes, I can see it.
Oh, it should.
That's unique.
Yeah. So, it's a long story. We were in Hong Kong, and Tiffany's had just been purchased by Avon. And so we met with the Avon people, Avon, cosmetics. This is 1981. I was at the time early 20s. So let's leave it at that. And anyway, and so we met these perfume people in Hong Kong, and they told us that the craftsmen couldn't make the what do you call that? Where the perfume goes, right? Big enough because it would distort the bean or the pebble, the shape of the bottle. So they told us that it had to be a dram, DRAM, which was a very pretty name for the volume of the, I don't know, the enclosure, whatever it's called. So that was that. And then Elsa couldn't stay in Hong Kong. She had to come back to New York. So I stayed behind. And for 10 days, I sat next to the craftsman and worked on, because nobody could do it, but I would tell him, sew, sew, a little here, a little here, a little here. And then it came out perfect. So I knew then that I had an eye for proportion. Proportion. Yeah. I would say it's proportion more than anything, that it comes, and that bottle that I brought back made it to the Tiffany catalog in 1981-82 was when you open it. And Elsa gave me a leather-bound Tiffany catalog for that year. Yeah, wow. That was the beginning of a wonderful friendship, if you will, and working relation. I have it here too. I can show you the book.
How exciting. How exciting. Was this your first job? Like your first adult job? Oh, okay.
First adult, well, I graduated from Marymount College in Tarrytown, New York. No longer exists. It was first absorbed by Fordham University, and then they sold the school. And I graduated. I had a degree in English and French, minor in French. And then when my first job, real job, was at a law firm on Wall Street. On Wall Street. Now, the law firm recently merged with another firm, but it was one of the 10 law firms, best law firms in the States. But I wasn't going to be a lawyer, so I really...
You wanted to get back out.
I didn't care for it.
Gotcha.
But, you make it. I was young, and I really, at that time, I always wanted to be in fashion. I always wanted to, you know, I interned at a magazine, a French magazine, in my last year of college. Yeah, I wanted to be a journalist. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Something in the lifestyle creative space.
Right.
I find, coming out of the DC world where, you have to have lived in DC to know DC, but it's a certain kind of city, a certain kind of mindset. It's strictly government, international relations, politics. I would say there's not fashion there. I know that DC has a fashion week and there's people in the city who are interested in fashion, but overall, it's a city that's not for creatives, I
No,
would
because they
say.
don't have time. When you're,
Right.
yeah, when you're involved with policy, and it's a different dynamic.
It is. And if it's there, I'm sure there's creative high schools like Duke Ellington High School, but it gets overshadowed by the city being known for policy. And I find that going into the creative space from the DC world is such a breath of fresh air.
Well, we have a first lady who loves fashion.
That's true. And she's glamorous with it, and she was in the industry. Would you say that when you left DC, and I know you went back to New York for some time and then you went to Palm Beach, would you say though that it's been a breath of fresh air coming out of the DC world and being a creative?
Uh, yes, because this was the
Passion.
true me. But there are three things in my life that I've enjoyed, and I've done the three. One was this creative part that I love, and the design and sketching and working with my hands and all of that. And then there's the art world, where I was a docent at the Norton Museum of Art in West Palm Beach for 7 years. And that was a year and a half when I first moved here. That's what I did. I just resigned this summer. But because it's too much, I'm now volunteering for Cynthia.
Right.
So anyway, but I enjoyed it. I loved it, and I love art.
Yeah.
I love art, and anything that has to do with art. I don't care, whatever. And from all cultures, from everything. And the other is politics. I love politics. I love to I like the challenge if you have a firm belief on something. And I don't like to argue, but if you have the facts, it's interesting to
Yeah.
be able to, it's not bantering, but it's debating somebody. And I think it can be fun. Unfortunately, sometimes it brings the worst and people, but it can be a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I've met and I interviewed a lot of wonderful, wonderful people, and you learn a lot through politics.
Yes, you do. It certainly makes a well-rounded life that you've had where you have been in the political sphere, the art sphere, and the jewelry sphere. And these are well, jewelry probably has a lot more in common with art than politics. But I'm curious because fashion, what happens in the world politically does affect fashion. Like, for example,
The
World War
tariffs, or right.
well, but like, take, for example, World War One. Before the Great War, women wore corsets and these great big dresses. But when the men had to go off to war, out went the corsets and in came the bras. women were wearing pants because they had to go work in factories. I'm curious, with the jewelry industry, is it impacted by the political world, what's happening in the
Well,
society, or?
sure. But look at the price of gold or the price of silver
Mm,
going up or the price. Yeah, definitely. Everything affects, I wouldn't
luxury.
say even politics. It's just the tectonic plates that are, move
Mm,
constantly,
mm-hmm.
meaning the political
Fear.
spheres. Yeah,
Yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
affects everything, especially today. But I'm very small in the jewelry world. I just do my little things and, let others worry about all that.
Right. Right.
No, I do. Where are they? Okay. Little pendants and earrings and bracelets.
Yes, but they're beautiful.
Thank
They're
you.
fabulous pieces. And what was the process like of launching your own brand? Did you do that in Palm Beach or did that start in New
No, I
York?
started this a long, long time ago.
Okay.
Well, I sold in Japan. I had a big client in Japan for 5 years. I also sold to museum shops in Madrid, in the Thyssen-Bornemisza, the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, the shops, and the Castle Prague in Prague. Then I did a stint at Bloomingdale's in New York, and they sold in different stores and a big department store in Spain. And I also did a lot of corporate gifts, Coca-Cola. I signed a contract with in Atlanta with
Wow.
Coca-Cola. I did cufflinks in sterling silver. Um, I did a lot
Wow.
for Peugeot, French company.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of work.
From the 80s you were doing this?
This would be the 90s and early and 2000s until 2005. From early
Wow.
90s. Yeah, 15
A-
years, 16 years, even
And this
more.
was full time.
See
Full
this
time?
Yeah, full
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
You see this poster right here?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
in silk.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I had made them on purpose for an event at the American Embassy in Madrid.
Wow.
So I had 6 of them made in this. They're in one. They're pretty good. They have lasted all these years. I had a
Yes.
big cocktail party at the embassy in Madrid. And so it was, so I had these made. No, I've been
Wow.
doing this for a long time.
Wow. And did you keep doing it while you started doing other full-time work, like when you worked in DC or worked in
I
New York?
always, no, when I was in DC, because it was all consuming, I put it aside.
Mm,
I didn't do anything. It was, no, no.
I
It was
see.
after I left DC that I thought that I would do the radio show, which was called International Dialogues. By then, I was interviewing people overseas and heads of foundations, organized NGOs, all sorts of different people. But it was too much,
I see.
because I had the radio, which I loved, because I like to talk, I
Hmm.
like to chit chat. So it was easy for me. But it was too much work. Because
I
again,
see.
it's like when I was doing tours at the museum,
Hmm.
you have to, if it's a new collection or there's a lot of studying behind that, and it takes.
Takes time. When, because you started your jewelry business, I don't know what, in your 30s or
To be
late 20s?
exact, well, I worked with Elsa from the time I was 24 to 32. So at 33, I started on my own. I went
And
on.
and what? what inspired you to do your own thing, to
Well,
have
I
the
had been
confidence?
working 9 years, and I saw from the inside.
Hmm.
Um,
What it was like.
that's right. So it was a natural thing for me to do. I couldn't, I knew how the jewelry and gift shop or gift, objects and things like that. I had worked inside. I had a glimpse, more than a
Mm.
glimpse, 9 years worth of, I was young, very young. And when you're
Mm.
very young, you absorb everything and
And
it
you
became a
take chances.
passion. Yeah. No, someone said it shouldn't be a passion. It became, it's what I know. It's what
Mm.
and, I'm
Yeah.
modest. I don't want to say this, but I'm very good at it.
Yeah, indeed. I mean,
No, I'm okay.
no, what you do, they're beautiful
Well,
pieces.
yes, no, modesty aside, but I'm good.
Yeah.
And for someone that I don't have an enormous company behind me,
Hmm.
put
Hmm.
things in perspective.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot, while I was with her because in this, she was great. She was a very difficult person to work with. But there is one thing, she gave me carte blanche. She was a very hands off. She had so many issues and problems with her personal life that I was, she would send me, fix this, go do this. So I learned that way,
Yeah,
I
you were able
hands
to
on,
learn.
right.
Yeah, the
So
craft.
the craft, right.
But you had this gusto, or this, yeah, to just go out there and do your own thing. It sounds like that came from because you had 9 years of kind of like this apprenticeship training, that you had this confidence to go out and do your own thing. And then I guess over time you were able to sign deals with Coca-Cola, with Peugeot, with these opportunities came. Is it because you were knocking on doors to make them
Oh, yes,
happen?
you have to knock on doors.
Sure.
Or sometimes if
Or word of
it can
mouth, or
happen that someone introduces you to to a prospective buyer, but you have to,
hmm.
if uh, you have to do the hard work. And
Hmm.
then I think it's more rewarding in the end when you realize, well, I've done your you were able to get that client, or you were able to get that guest on your show. You think to yourself, well, i'm I'm doing okay. Or
Yeah.
it's step by step, but again, I wish I could tell young people like it's like this. No.
Hmm. Up down,
Up and
roller
down.
coaster.
And then you go back again.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think that whatever you do, well, my mother used to instill that on us all the time. If you're going to do something, do it well. Otherwise, don't do it.
Mm.
I mean,
Hmm.
it's a little strict, but
Indeed.
yeah, but I think to do it.
And when you got to Palm Beach, did you just kind of begin, or reawaken the business, and that's
Well,
what you do
it's
full time?
small. I have a small business. I sell, well, actually, her store, Jennifer Garriga's in Palm Beach, is beautiful. So I'm honored that she has me in that store. I have a counter with my jewelry, and then I'm online. But she has a wonderful store, and she's an interior designer, and she's she's a dynamo. So I'm very happy to be there to show my things there. But again, it's um, living near the ocean. It's just knock on wood, there are no hurricanes, but it's just the blue sky, it's beautiful being in Florida.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a relaxing way
Well,
of
it's not
life.
so relaxing because if you're busy doing things, it depends on the lifestyle you choose. If you're busy doing things all the time, I'm not social. No, I'm too tired of doing that. I do my own thing. I'm not no, it's not for me.
Gotcha.
I mean, I look at them and I think, oh, everybody's having a blast. But then I think I've been very social my whole life and been there, done that. This is who knows how many years I have left.
Yes, yeah.
You're young, but when you get to be my age, you think, well, I love
Well,
what
people are living to be 100, so I'm
yes,
sure
but
you're
100, you want to be 100 in good shape, not 100 and
right. I know what you're
so,
saying. I understand.
you have to, I don't know. I think you have to, there's a time for everything. There's a time for, um, for everything. And now I'm found my, niche. I like I like what I do. I love what I do. And, you
Yeah.
know,
Uh, and you're good at what you do.
well, I'd like to think that yes, but of course, there's things are not that great, but
Yeah.
I'm modest. Reality, no, but when you think about it, if I don't have a big company behind me, it's just me, so it's just and then of course, I work with people, finish or do my work. For instance, I cannot set stones. So I work with
Okay.
someone he's a genius and he's very, very good. And so
So
he
all
sets,
of the craftsmanship, that's done by other people.
that's right, right.
I see. But do you do the drawing, you do the
I do
designing?
the wax, I do the model, and I
Okay.
can finish from start to the end. Well, the only thing I can't do myself is setting stones or that kind of a thing. No.
I see. I
So
see.
but I can finish a piece from beginning to end.
I see.
If, for instance, I have new pieces, I give them out to be cast, from the wax to be cast and then finished
I see.
when it's production.
I see. A couple of last questions. Do you get to travel to Europe or around the world
Not
these days?
anymore. The last time, not anymore, and I'm happy. But there is one place that I went that when I think back, one of my last trips was to Kurdistan, to
Oh,
Iraq. That's
wow.
right.
Wow.
That's right. And that was in 2016. Well, 2016, I went to Argentina and I met up with all my classmates from grammar school. Yeah.
Wow.
And we had a reunion. I'm friends with them on Facebook, with about 30 girls.
Did you go to a local school or an
Yes, I
international
went.
school?
It was international. Well, not international. It's a girls' school. There were some international kids, but great school, Michael Memorial College. But we met. I met them in 2016. I hadn't seen them in 40 years or something like that. So it was a lot of fun. 45 years. And I'm also on Facebook friends with girls I went to school in Japan,
Wow.
Sacred
So,
Heart in
so
Tokyo.
now you've got to make a trip to Japan to
Oh, I've
see
been to
them.
Japan several times
Okay.
over the years, but yeah.
How
And then,
nice.
but going back to Kurdistan, that was interesting because I had my International Dialogues radio show, and I had interviewed in 2016 the representative of the government of Kurdistan, and other people at the time. I guess the government was having a conference, and they invited me. So I went, just
Wow.
but the difference it was half an hour from Mosul, where ISIS was bombing. And so I remember asking my family, what do you think? Should I go? Oh, yeah, go. What do you care if something happens to you? You don't have children. You don't have anything. No. So I went, and it was wonderful, wonderful. I had Erbil. That's where I was, Erbil, and the food was delicious, out of this world. And the people were very nice, and it was a conference of Muslims and Christians and Jews, and it was interesting.
Wow, that sounds
Yeah.
exciting.
That was
Do you have anywhere on your list to go anytime soon?
Well, no, not well, anytime soon. Yes, I'm going up to Maine, but that's about it. No,
Okay,
I have a
nothing
niece who's getting married, so I'm going,
Okay.
but not internationally. No, maybe Italy. I'd like to go back. Italy, and I've never been to Ireland, and that's where my family hails on my dad's side, Ireland and England. But I've never been to Ireland. I'd like to go there. But I don't know. Europe, it's just things have changed so much, and I'm getting lazy too. The traveling is such a nightmare.
Yeah,
Unless
but
you
I
go
feel
first class or in a private jet.
that's true. That's true. Now for me, Europe is like, I don't know, going from South Carolina to DC. I don't know. It's like so easy. Even going to Saudi Arabia, it's like a short little trip for me.
And
And I know that's
Beirut,
not.
you would spend a lot of time in Beirut, right?
I lived there for 3
That's
years.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, from 2018 to 2021.
And how
So,
was it? Because that was at
um,
the time.
that way, I mean, Lebanon's, for me, it's the most beautiful country in the Middle
I know
East. I
Beirut
would
was the
take it,
Paris of the Middle East,
yes, of the Orient. They
of the
called it the
Orient.
Paris of the Orient, the Switzerland of the Middle East because of the skiing and all. Um, it's not what it was in the 70s and 80s in its heyday before the war, civil war that they had. I had a hard time because the racism is next level with the Lebanese. And I had even a Lebanese person tell me, he compared it to the Jim Crow South. Um, it it was very difficult to live there, and even white Europeans and white Americans felt uncomfortable being in Lebanon because it was just next level. Yeah.
Wow. No,
So,
that
yeah.
is sad to hear, but
I think it's getting better. When I was in Lebanon the last summer, but the summer before 2023, I was at the Kafraya winery, and there was a tour bus of Africans at the winery, and my mouth was just hanging open. Like, Africans there as tourists? Like, what's happening to Lebanon? It was great, seeing that. So I think the young people have gotten a little
what
better
happened?
with the racism. It's still there, but it's a beautiful country. But yeah, anyone listening, go visit Lebanon. It's worth going. It's a beautiful country, so much culture and so much craftsmanship, and you'll have a blast. The best food in the Middle East comes out of Lebanon and Syria. If you consider Turkey Arab, I don't. I consider Turkey
Well, it's part of the European Union.
right. But I don't, I mean, what do you consider Turkey?
Well, I haven't been to Turkey,
Okay.
but
It's not
I would
Arab.
love to. Istanbul. I mean, I used to read the novels of Pierre Loti and all this. it's exotic, the
It
image
is.
that you have of all these places.
Yeah.
You've been to
It's east and
Petra,
west.
Jordan. I haven't been to any of those places, and I would love to. I'd love to go to Israel. That's my, as a Christian, and just the beauty of the place and what
You would love it.
yeah.
You would love the Middle East because just as a creative, just the craftsmanship
No,
that
yeah.
comes out, and the Egyptians are especially gifted with like pressed metal. So like the chandeliers, and when you have jewelry that's got that, like embossed pressed
Right, right.
metal, they're
Well,
very
remember,
gifted in it.
the Arabs were in Spain for 900 years, La
That's
Alhambra.
true.
When you look at the architecture, and it's
Hmm.
exquisite,
Yeah.
the Sybaritic, taste, very, it's unbelievable, the
It is.
jades and the precious stones and all the work. Yes, I would love to. I mean, it's
You would
like,
love it.
yeah, it's unfortunate that, it's like we go back to the same thing. It's human nature. You have
Mm.
good people, bad people, wherever you go. It's not any per se country, but it's sad to hear that in this day and age, people, after all the information that's out there and everyone that we know about, that people can still be so prejudiced and nasty.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if they were living in the Stone Age, okay, but in today's world with the internet, there's no excuse.
They I find, like these cultures, they're very, what's the word? I think Japan used to have a problem with this where it's very monolithic.
Well,
Is that
that's right.
yeah,
Japan, if there was intermarriage,
yeah,
yeah, the same
yeah,
thing you mentioned.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's in a lot of cultures, and I
because they're
think especially
homogenic.
yes,
They don't want an outsider. And there were issues during World War II. Yeah,
yeah.
it's in unfortunately, that's why when people criticize the United States, but
Mm.
in the scheme of
I'm
things,
sorry, but I don't think the US,
I don't think
these
so.
multi-culti societies are as racist as, and I know the US has its history with slavery and civil
Yeah,
rights and so
sure.
on. Yes. But when you go to these homogenic societies where they are not used to it being multi-culti, is similar to the Jim Crow era and how they see blacks or other people of color. And it's very hard to live in these places as a black person. And it was particularly hard. The Middle East has its views on women. I think Lebanon's far more advanced than a lot of other countries, but it's just that it was very hard as a single black woman to live in Lebanon.
This is
Yeah. So it's an adjustment. As you know, someone who's lived in other countries, we have to adjust to places we're in. And it's a skill that you of diplomacy and
That's right.
thinking.
You have to balance who you are and adjusting to the society if you're living there. If you're
Yeah.
and I don't know, lead a dignified life, try to be courteous and respectful, but always remember where you come from.
Yeah.
Never
Indeed.
forget that. I know where I
Indeed.
come from. I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I
But you know
come
where
from.
you come from.
That's right. Always know where you come from. Looking at your Instagram, I know you come from a very solid background. Your
Yeah.
mother is a teacher, music
She is.
teacher. right?
elementary music
Elementary.
teacher.
For how many
Yeah.
years? Something.
Oh gosh, she's going over 40 years. She won't quit. She's like the Energizer Bunny. She's got students who are in their 50s or maybe almost 50. She's teaching now the children of children. So I tell her, when you start teaching the grandchildren, you must stop.
Well, but it keeps her, to be with kids. And plus, she probably loves what she does. And
Yes,
yeah.
she loves what she does, and she's loved by the community.
Oh, I see the, right.
Yeah, like a mini celebrity in the town. And my dad ran for coroner in our county for over 20 years. So he had a spot in politics, but he
Yes,
was a
I've
teacher
seen him in the pictures in the convention with
his Lincoln hat. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And he's a retired teacher's aide though. He retired. Because when he sees my mom, he's like, "When are you going to retire?"
And do they travel? Did they come to visit you overseas? No.
They didn't. They didn't, and they both have passports, but and my dad would love to, I would say, more than my mom. But yeah, I need to make that happen because being able to see, I'd love to show them places I've lived, and I think it would be great to start off in the Middle East. And my dad would love to visit Israel like you, to see those Bible spots, and yeah. There's nothing like it.
My brother and his family, they went with a church, with their church, and he loved it. They loved it. They thought it was, it's unbelievable. And then, it's a jewel in the middle of the desert. And so
Well, maybe sometime you should come with me to the Middle East, like maybe next year or the year after.
Well,
We
count
could
me in.
plan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then we could go to, Lebanon and Jordan, so you can see Petra and
Oh, that sounds,
they're all
that looks
close.
unbelievable, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Petra is amazing.
But are there buildings inside of all the, or
So
it's
you
just
No, so what do they call that where Indiana Jones was
That's
filmed? I
right.
think I forget what they call that room, or that building, but that famous building, from the parking lot to that building, it's probably a good 2-mile walk. It's a long walk. And around that building, you have other heritage Nabatean sites that you can visit, and you have Bedouins who are selling purses and little trinkets and jewelry and things like that, and they take card machines out there. So yeah, out in the desert, and you'll see a donkey wandering, and there's this cool story of this woman from New Zealand who was going on a gap year. I think this was back in the 70s or 60s. And she went with a girlfriend traveling the world. They ended up in Jordan, and she was at Petra and at one of the stalls of one of these Bedouin sellers. And he said, "You're going to marry me. We're going to get married." And she's like, "No, we're not." He's like, "Yes, you are." And she's like, "No, we're not." Anyways, she ended up marrying the guy.
Oh my God, persistent. So
Married
is
the
she
guy.
now living in the desert as a Bedouin?
I wonder if she's still living. When I was there a few years ago, she was still living, but she wasn't at her stall. Her husband had already passed, but her son was there, and I got a picture with the son. But she wrote a book and they had, I don't know, 4 or 5 kids, and the kids would spend the summers in New Zealand to get acquainted with her culture. But she lived
culture.
Right, but they lived in a tent.
That's
Bedouin
right. Yeah, in the middle.
lifestyle.
But
They
with
raised
Persian rugs.
And Queen Elizabeth went out there. You'll have to Google the picture, like Google Queen Elizabeth out, Bedouin family, New Zealand woman.
Really? She visited the New Zealand family tent.
Their tent, and was eating watermelon out there with them. But thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining the podcast. It's been great to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. I really enjoy talking with you, and it was a wonderful visit. Loved it.
For me too. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode and that you have found a soulful connection to the conversation. God bless you, and until the next episode, go bless somebody else.